I'm a big believer that in any product or business you want to start, you should start with an audience. Before you build a product, before you build a business, just build an audience in whatever niche or thing you care about, and then learn from that audience on what services or products they need. Audiences online are so important, especially owned audiences like a newsletter. An audience on like Instagram may be less valuable than if it's the same size versus an audience in a newsletter format. Milk Road is known for being more like approachable and being more simple in the investing world. And so now we have a bit of revenue stream from that as well.
Nice, man. Well, I was doing a little internet research myself, and just, stalking you online to see what you're all about. And it seems like you genuinely have an interesting life. You have a few businesses that you own or you're part of. You travel a bunch, you surf, you have a partner. So I guess my question to kick us off is how are you able to do this? How are you able to do it all? And why do you think more founders don't do the same?
That's a really good question. Why more people don't do the same? So about 6 years ago, I quit my job that I had previously. I was living in Toronto 6 or 7 years ago. It was 2018. I quit my job that I was doing. I loved it. I helped build a company from scratch, and we got investment, etc. But I was wearing dress pants and dress shoes every day, and going into this office, and I was like, what am I doing? This sucks. I had traveled a little bit, but not a lot at that time, and I was like, I learned to surf, but again, just a little bit, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. I have this nice car now, and I'm wearing a watch, and I got to wear these uncomfortable clothes every day. This doesn't make sense. And I was like, this is it. I'm done. I'm going to move to Bali, and I'm just going to wear no shoes every day. And I'm going to learn to be a good surfer, and I'll figure out what business I'm going to build from there, what I'm going to do. And I think that moment was the big change in my life, because I basically sold everything I had, got rid of everything, and I went to Bali, and I had one little backpack, and and that was it. I bought a surfboard when I got there, and that was the only thing that I owned. And honestly, that was the most just the best moment of my life for me, to just kind of let go of everything and go, let's start fresh and see what life I could design. And so from there, I built, I was actually at the time building my own podcast in the health space and building a content
Nice.
creator business there. And so I kind of learned the idea of hey, you can have freedom, you can work online, everything can be digital. You don't need a lot of money to build that startup. You can surf, you can travel while doing it. And once I got a taste of that, also in Bali, kind of everyone is doing that, or at least trying to do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
Yeah. I sort of learned oh, this is possible. And I think before that, I didn't know it was possible. When I quit, I wasn't going to go to Bali. I was going to go somewhere else. I learned about Bali, learned there was this hub of these digital entrepreneurs. And I was like, whoa, that's a thing. I can do that. And so when I got there and I got exposed to it, I think I just realized, whoa, this is possible. And then it just became kind of easy. And it's been for 5 years. I traveled and worked and built 2 businesses. And it's just become kind of natural to me. Whereas everyone else I speak to, they seem like they're stuck and they don't know how to. I get people asking me how did you do that? Did you get a visa to do this? How did you leave the country? I was like, I just bought a plane ticket. I just quit my,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's actually not that hard, but there's just a lot of, I think, barriers to people because it's not the norm, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just did it. Honestly, the Nike, just do it.
I think more people should do that, especially if you're a founder or creator, just there's nothing tying you down to a city. So why not live somewhere that's beautiful if you're going to be working a ton? One of my best friends just moved to Mexico City.
Yeah.
He's not Mexican at all. He's traveled a bunch, but he just moved to Mexico City and figured it all out. And now he's been there 5 months, and he's like, yeah, I got my residency and I plan on staying here as long as I want to. I work
Yeah.
remote. He has a small business that he runs as well. So I think it's really cool.
Mexico
Yeah.
City is actually my favorite city in the world. I lived there as well. I lived in Mexico for 2 years, and I love Mexico. But one of the nice things about moving to somewhere like Mexico, or at the time Bali, I think Bali is quite expensive now, is it's a lot less pressure to build a business and create content when your rent is $1,000 a month versus
Yep.
$8,000 a month if you're in New York City or whatever, right?
Yeah, so true.
It actually is an advice I give to a lot of people is actually quit, leave, and go somewhere where it's much cheaper to live. Because one of the beautiful things about building a business online is you generally earn in dollars, right? US dollars.
Yep.
And so if you can earn in dollars but pay and live in expenses in pesos, that's an arbitrage. And that was one of the things that allowed me to not have to have a side job while I built my original business. And also to start hiring people for my first business without needing to get investment capital or anything, because my expenses were so low living in Mexico. I was living in a beach town that I could start to hire and take away from what I was paying myself. And it didn't actually impact me. If I was living in Canada or the US, no way I could have done that. So it was a huge leg up to
Or San
start.
Francisco, super expensive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Even worse.
Man, that's cool. Well, thank you for enlightening me. Like, I feel like that's something that I want to like share more of, or share more stories of people like do cool shit and like also enjoy life, but also work hard and like are great at what they do. So I appreciate that. Can we just pivot really quick and talk about the businesses that you're part of today? I know Milk Road is probably the one that everybody knows. One of the biggest crypto newsletters out there. There's also Impact Growth, which is like a marketing agency, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we actually started with the marketing agency back in 2019. Myself and my partner Jay, co-owner Jay, we started in 2019 when we were in Bali. Actually, is when we started the company, and so we've been growing that for what is that 6 years now. And so that's basically a marketing and PR agency for crypto companies.
Yes.
So we found that there was a big niche there. They needed specific help that other companies don't need. Their audience is very different than the rest of a lot of other industries. Their products are very different. The things they do, like launching tokens and stuff, just very different than the rest of the world, let's call it. So we kind of built a niche agency there that's grown a lot and done quite well. And then Milk Road, we had our own media company called Web3 Academy that we started back in 2022. But Milk Road was started in 2021, and not by us, but they were a client of ours, of our agency, and we acquired them in early 2024, so just over a year ago, and now have been running both Milk Road and Impact 3 together.
Interesting. Why acquire the Milk Road versus like build from scratch? And like let's just dig into like the story of like how has it been since then?
Yeah, sure. So we acquired Milk Road, one, because we absolutely love the brand. It's really hard to build a brand that people love, and Milk Road had done a really good job of that. Um, but Milk Road had so there's two reasons. One, we love the brand. We already did have our own media company that was kind of similar to Milk Road. It wasn't as cool as a brand. It was not as big, and so one of the things that was good for Milk Road is we already had all the products with Web3 Academy. We just didn't have the size, whereas Milk Road had the size, but they didn't have the products. And they didn't really have a team at that point where they wanted to build products. They were kind of just stuck in their motions. And so it was a perfect opportunity to take over Milk Road, merge our existing Web3 Academy brand and the products. We had a course, we have a pro membership, etc., under Milk Road. And so basically, when we took over Milk Road, we were able to cut their expenses because we didn't need a lot of the team, and then
Yeah.
double revenues on like day 30, right? Because we just put our
Nice.
products into a massive audience. So it just felt like the perfect fit for us there. The other thing is one of the beautiful things about the having an audience is that helps you grow other businesses. And so our agency, which is in the crypto space, we figured if we had Milk Road, it has hundreds of thousands of subscribers to the newsletter. There's going to be a lot of people in there that might want to use our agency services, and we were right
So
on that,
true.
right? So the moment that we took over Milk Road, all of a sudden our agency took off as well. I'm a big believer that in any product or business you want to start, you should start with an audience, right? Before you build a product, before you build a business, just build an audience in whatever niche or thing you care about, and then learn from that audience on what services or products they need. And so we had kind of already had that again with Web3 Academy, but Milk Road just gave us that like extra leverage. It was 10x, 15x bigger than what our other media company was. And even Web3 Academy, as small as it was still bringing us some clients to the agency. We knew that would
Yeah.
kind of 10x if we acquired Milk Road. And so it was sort of just the perfect fit for us on both sides of the businesses. So yeah.
Nice. And when you acquired it, was it just the daily newsletter, the audience, the brand? Like what was the size like?
Yes.
How many subscribers did they have?
They had, when we acquired it, about 250,000 subscribers, or 270,
Nice.
something along those lines. And they were just a
Which
newsletter.
at the time
Again,
in crypto is huge.
huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's pretty big. It's one of the biggest. I think maybe Bankless is bigger, who again is a client of ours and has been since 2020. And then like there's some other ones, but different style. Like Milk Road is really like the content driven type business, where there's other newsletters that are more like faceless, like let's say CoinDesk or some of these others where like you don't know who's writing the content. We find that that's a very different world. But anyway, so it's about 250,000. They only had the newsletter. They were monetizing through sponsorships and nothing else. So they only had one revenue stream. And so when we acquired it, we launched a membership service or a research service for crypto investors. We launched a podcast because we already had a podcast, and so we launched the Milk Road Show, which was great. That's grown and has done really really well and has become one of the bigger podcasts now in crypto. And then we've launched a few other like products and tools along the way. But when we got it, it was just a newsletter. That's it. And we kind of had a bigger vision for it. We said, hey, we want to make Milk Road kind of more than just this written content, but we think it could play a bigger role in the crypto space and in the investing world.
Yeah.
Today, we're actually just about to launch 2 other brands called Milk Road
Nice.
Macro and Milk Road Degen, which is us like kind of
Hmm.
moving out of just we sort of Milk Road focuses on like fundamental investing and in crypto specifically. And we want to branch out. We want to start to talk about macro. We want to start talking about AI. We want to start talking about like more degen stuff, like the crypto casino that some
It's
people
cool.
love. And so we're sort of expanding our brands and kind of the content that we talk about, but remaining niche in each one. So like Milk Road Macro will have its own podcast, its own newsletter, and it'll only talk about macro. Won't even be anything to do with crypto. Milk Road, the one we have today, will just be focused on crypto. It'll be less macro now because we kind of talk about a bit of both. And so it's about building these niche brands, but that all sort of like help each other grow and kind of fit. So that's kind of where we're focused on now.
Yeah, this playbook is really smart, and it's something that I preach about online all the time. Is like build the audience first, but if you can't build the audience, and I think acquiring it is the next best thing, if not better, because it's quicker. You just have to have the capital for it. But like, what goes into buying essentially like a media company like that? Like, obviously you have to have the capital, but what's a deal like that? Because I feel like this is relatively new. Like purchasing audiences. You didn't do this 10 years ago. I mean, you did, but it was completely different. You know, you're buying newspaper companies or media companies online, huge ones. And I think this is something that a lot of people are probably thinking of doing. They just don't really know. Like, it's not like buying a SaaS company or buying a different, traditional company. But what is that process like? And maybe you could just share more
It's
insights.
it's interesting. This is the first time I've ever like acquired a company or been a part of an acquisition, and being in those like meetings and those negotiations are wild. It is a very stressful time. Thankfully, I was traveling to the time. I was in Brazil actually when
Nice.
all this happened, and
You're
so I was
chilling on the
able to.
beach. Well,
Yeah, yeah. I was able to like sort of manage my stress by surfing every morning, so that was nice. I think if I was like in a city, I would have just lost it. But no, honestly, it's becoming quite popular. I think now audiences online are so important, especially owned audiences like a newsletter, right? An audience on like Instagram may be less valuable than if it's the same
mhm.
size versus an audience in a newsletter format, because you actually get to own them, which makes things I think a little bit easier. But I mean, with the hustle, I think they sold for like close to 100 million or something like that. I forget what it was, but a lot. So there are a lot of newsletters being sold for the millions these days, and in this one, it was quite simple of an acquisition actually because they didn't have any other products. They didn't have any like, ongoing customers through a membership. So they weren't running any of these like crazy technologies. They just had a newsletter, which is basically just a bunch of emails. And they had
Mm.
one guy writing it for the most part. And so it was fairly
Very simple
straightforward.
business.
Yeah, very simple once you like come up with the numbers and you kind of figure out the deal and sign the document. It's actually a fairly easy handover. But the reason why it was so easy for us is we had been running a similar company for a while, and we also with our agency, we had worked with many of the bigger, even bigger companies than Milk Road, and we'd also worked with Milk Road for months with our agency. So like we kind of knew how it all worked already. We've ran newsletters and media companies that are hundreds of thousands in size. So like we kind of already had it all figured out. We knew exactly what we were doing from day one. It's a little bit more challenging if you've never ran an audience of that size before, right? Because there's a lot. You don't realize how many of that audience is actually like very engaged, and they're sending you emails, they're commenting, they're like they want answers. Like there's a lot you've got to figure out there and deal with. So it's not as simple
Yeah.
as it seems. But thankfully, they didn't have a lot of crazy products, which made it very simple. If all of a sudden they had like a membership product or they had some sort of tech that went along with it, that's a whole other world. You got to make sure you have a developer that can handle that. You got to know what the ins and outs of that are. Theirs was kind of simple, so it was a nice, easy, simple acquisition, which was great.
I just thought of this right now, but when you bought Milk Road, did you merge the basically like the email list with your old one, and you introduce like Milk Road as like the new parent brand,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
give people, yeah. So
So we basically just told our existing audience we had about 20,000 newsletter subscribers at
still pretty
previous,
good. Yeah,
yeah, with Web3 Academy, and so we just told them, hey, we've acquired Milk Road, we're partnering with them, and we're now moving everything under Milk Road, and so moving forward, you'll still have all the same products, you'll still hear from us. It's just going to be under this brand instead, and you'll be joining 250,000 others instead of just the 20,000 that you've been a part of, and so the community and
nice,
the audience that we had already loved that idea. A lot of them already knew Milk Road again because it was a bigger brand in the space, and so it was an added bonus I think to all of them because with Milk Road we ended up having more resources. We could hire more. We now have more
yeah,
researchers, more analysts. We create more content, and so for those that were around in the olden days, it's just been an upgrade for them. So it's been a win for everyone.
nice. What was that transition period like? Obviously, there was one writer before. Did you have to hire a bunch more? Were you like operating, or did you hire somebody to help operate? Like, what was that process like?
Yeah, we are operating it. So Jay and I are still operating and kind of in on everything for both of the companies. And we like it that way. It's fun for us. We're just like diehard builders. We just like I barely sleep because I'm always thinking about what's the next thing we can launch, the next thing we can do.
Yeah,
Uh, so like for me, that's the fun part is operating a business. So it was all us to hire and everything. The one thing we really don't like is kind of like they had one writer. That writer hadn't taken time off in years, and we were like, okay, we need to get you more writers so you can actually like take a vacation. We like to diversify, and so it was like, okay, we're going to acquire Milk Road. We're going to diversify our writers, so we have more writers. We're going to diversify our revenue streams, so we started launching more products, so that we're not all 100% relying on this one guy and this one way of making money. And so the first
yeah,
90 days, we're like, let's go execute on that. Let's hire some people. Let's launch some products. Do this and this and this and that. And so it was a lot of work, to be honest. But it took maybe, let's say 90 days or so to kind of get it figured out. And then it sort of like cooled down. We were more calm and it was more like easy day kind of operating. Whereas those first 90 days, there's so much to figure out, so much to do, so much to hire. So it was a lot. But it's been way worth it. You know, we're a year and I don't know, a couple months out from doing that, and the business has never been better. Milk Road is growing, everything's looking good. So like we're happy, and we've got a big team now that can help support us and help us operate. And so it's made it a lot easier. On the agency side, for example, Jay and I actually don't need to be involved in that much anymore at this point.
yeah,
The one thing we did a really good job of from day one is focusing on building leaders within our companies. It's a hard thing to do, but if you can do it, it just makes your life as a founder so much easier because you can rely on them to handle it. And so like our team that's been with us for years now on the agency side, they now handle all the hiring, the getting the clients, the like
mm,
the onboarding, the managing people. And it's like we almost are like consultants for our own company. That's it. We kind of are in like a meeting or
yeah,
two a week, and that's it. We don't have to do any operating. That would have been impossible if we didn't really focus on like building these people as leaders from day one. And since we did that, we spent years just like coaching them and helping them become leaders. Now it's just been so much easier for us. So that's
yeah.
the best thing that we did for our company for sure.
But also for like an agency or most service businesses, one of the probably top three problems that they have is acquiring customers, or acquiring like new, you know, deal flow.
Yeah,
And if you kind of solve that by having like a huge brand that kind of gives consistent deal flow, then that's one less problem that they have to worry about all the time.
100%.
On the Milk Road side, what does the team look like? You go one person to how many people now, and how is it structured, and how are you using AI or different tools to kind of manage the day to day? Because now you're over 300,000 subscribers, right? It's a daily newsletter. You have like a bunch of different business lines that you have. So what does the team and process look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a daily newsletter. We have a pro research platform where we put out both video and written content weekly as well. That's kind of paywalled. We have a podcast that's also daily now. Never was previously. And then obviously we
Wow,
have a
it's a lot
very
of work. It's a lot
yeah,
of content.
it's a
Okay.
lot of content for sure. We only have 13 full time people at Milk Road, um, and uh, and so like some of them are talent, so those that actually create the content, whether it's podcast hosts or it's a writer for the newsletter, writer for the pro reports, or researchers, and then you have a few like, and then we also have a website that has 500,000 to 700,000 views per month. And so we have writers for that and like an SEO guy for that too. But basically it's like you have talent. So think of like your content creators, whether they're kind of
Mhm.
front facing, and then you have your operators in the background. These are the ones that like they take that content, they turn it into shorts, they format it, they do this and that, and they kind of repurpose it all. And so you have those guys in the background, and then now we have a lot of AI that does and is working towards doing a lot of this. Because when you have that much content, you also got to figure out where do you distribute it. Does it go in Discord? Does it go in Telegram? Because we also have many different communities for each one of our products. And so there's a lot of like taking content here, remaking it, reformatting it, restructuring it, and then putting it over here. That's where AI is
Mm.
doing a lot for us. We originally thought when AI came out, okay, let's create an AI product. Let's teach an AI all of our content, and then it can be our new like researcher and analyst, and people can go ask it questions. And we found, AI is not really there yet. No one's really doing that to like a high level. It's not smarter
Yeah.
than humans when it comes to investing. Not yet. Eventually will be, but it's not there today. what it is really good at is automating. And so we doubled down on that about 6 months ago and just said, okay, everyone, what do you do every day? We actually had all of our team write down their daily tasks. This is really important for more of the operators. The content creators, not so much. They've got to bring their personalities, their energy, their insights.
Yeah. It's hard to outsource that.
Yeah, hard to outsource that, hard to replace that. But with the operators, and it was scary for them, I think, at the beginning, they're like, wait, you're going to automate everything we do. And we're like, no.
This
Once
is
we
my
automate,
job.
yeah, we're like, once we automate this, there's going to be so much more stuff for you to do because we're going to be able to create even more content. And so they
Right.
feel good about their positions, but it's basically, let's see what everyone does on a day-to-day basis. And let's just try to automate everything we do in the background. And so I think a lot of people are trying to use AI to give you the product. And instead, we're using AI to just do all the back end stuff so that our humans can make even better products, right? And so that's what we've done. Now we actually have a developer, and one of his like main KPIs is how many robot employees do you have? And he actually has a scoreboard, and it's like every week he's like, okay, we launched this robot, this robot, this robot, and so those
That's
are
so
like
cool.
AI, those are automations, those are whatever he can create, and so like that's a big scoreboard for us is can we get more and more automations, and the more we get, the happier we are because the more output we can do with the same amount of people.
Yeah. Is there let's say like somebody like myself or somebody who has a similar business, any automations that you think like top 3 off the top of your head, like people should implement today, to start saving time or make things more efficient?
Um, So it depends on what you do. Obviously, as a content creator, the way that we sort of think of it, the like funnel you could say that we have is like we use our content creators, like our talent, to create long form content. So that's like an hour long podcast or 40 minutes or whatever, or like long form written content. Then what we do is we get AI to like go transcribe that long form podcast, summarize it, create a nice tweet around that with some bullet points and a good CTA, and then it goes and tweets it and does everything on its own, right? Or it
Nice.
summarizes it in a different way and sends it out to like in our Discord to our community and says, hey guys, we launched this new podcast. Here's like what it's about. Here's the time points. AI does all that for us. So it's like we always start with the talent is to create the long form stuff, and then we use AI plus operators as needed to like
Yep.
redistribute that and kind of break it all down. We use Zapier to do most of that. There's two. We use N8N, I think it's called. This isn't a very like you need a developer to do this, but they're the ones that create kind of the base layer automations, and then we use Zapier to like tap into those to like do a bunch of different stuff, and anyone can use that. It's very easy to use Zapier.
Yeah.
So that's like our content strategy. The other things I'd say that we do, for me, I consume a lot of content because I'm a big part of our research team, and so I was like watching, I don't know, hours of video content a day, listening to podcasts, reading newsletters. We actually built some automations, same style of like, let's transcribe all these YouTube videos, turn it into like this nice little brief PDF, and also create an audio version for it. And I can just sit there and listen from a podcast that should be an hour. It takes me 7 minutes, and so every podcast I get is now 7 minutes instead. So I can consume like 4 times the amount of content that I was consuming before. And so that's been a really cool automation that we've created. And
Dude,
it
that's a
just,
product in itself. You
I
should like
know,
offer. I mean, I don't know if you've probably already offered that because isn't there that app that does like, I don't know, like a book in 10 minutes or like Blinkist or
Blinkist.
something like that. Like
That's what gave me the
you could have your
idea.
own version.
The
Yeah,
problem with
have your own version
Blinkist,
for people.
the problem with Blinkist was I had to go and grab the URL on YouTube, and like every time I wanted it
Mm.
like summarized and shortened, I had to go get it manually and put it in. I was like, this is getting annoying. Why can't I just have something that goes and gets them for me, brings them in, and like
Mm.
posts it in a Discord channel for me, right? So that's what we did is we basically have AI agents that go and it follows all the YouTube channels that I listen to, and then it basically transcribes it, then summarizes it, then throws into a PDF the way that I want to read it, and then also throws it into an audio in a more like enjoyable way, and it's always 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
And then it spits it out into a Discord message for me. So like I don't have to go anywhere. It's just always there, and it just does it all day. That is going to be a product for Milk Road. As we launch all these brands, one of
Nice.
the things we've realized our audience is like, you guys have too much content. How do I consume it all?
Yeah.
So we're going to use AI to start summarizing and things like that. The other thing, honestly, the best thing, and this is actually really good for you, which is there's a tool called Granola. Now there's a bunch of these, but it basically just joins any of your calls, whether it's like on Zoom or Google or here in Riverside or in Discord. And all it does is transcribe it, but then it spits out a little ChatGPT like thing where you can start to ask questions about the call you just had. So I can be like,
Mm.
oh, what was that thing that Ish was talking about again? Like he mentioned this, and it'll like spit it out for me. But what I do is we'll record it, we'll use it for our podcast. And at the end, I'm like, hey, that was a podcast. What should the title be? And boom, it gives me like 5 options for good
That's
titles.
great.
And I'm like, oh, I want it to be a little bit more this way. And it'll tell me that. I'm like, hey, I need the time points for this. And it spits it out like within seconds of the podcast being done. And I can do that with either meetings, calls, like team meetings, like whatever it is. Like it's that I love that tool. It's amazing.
Dude, as like a content creator, like I've been creating content since like Snapchat days, Tumblr days. Like
Yeah.
I feel like this is like the most exciting time because AI is making like, I'm not a designer of any sorts, but like I started using ChatGPT to like design infographics and like stuff that I previously would have to like hire somebody on Fiverr for, or like even the AI stuff that you're talking about. I'm doing some of that stuff already. Like, like summarize this, 68-minute podcast and like give me different, like, as a kind of like a sparring partner.
Yeah.
As like, like this is kind of like a thumbnail idea that I was thinking, like, based on what like on these different creators, like what's something that we can change it up with, or what words should we use, or how should we bold it, or like what should the title be if I'm aiming more towards this angle, or this is the audience, like how should I position myself, like as a solo creator or just like a person who's been creating on the internet for a long time, it's pretty exciting the stuff that you can do today. And I feel like there's like no excuses at this point.
100%.
Before, like you could say like, oh, I'm not a designer, I can't make things beautiful, or like I'm not a great writer, or like I don't know how to really tweet. It's like whatever way you can know how to create content, whether it's like video, audio, written, or if you're just a good storyteller, like there's a way to transcribe that and turn it into like a different format very easily now with the different tools that are available. So it's so cool to hear how you're using them.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge, and it's funny on our agency side. Close to half of our team there are like designers, right? Whether the video editors, graphic
Oh, it's
designers,
cool.
etc. So when ChatGPT came out with that release a couple months ago, where like you could go and make whatever image, they were all like, "Uh oh," and I was basically like, we had to come in and be like, "Okay, everyone, I know
You
this
guys
is
are
a bit
good.
scary for your role, but here's the thing: this could replace you. I'm not going to lie, it actually could, unless you use it, right? Because someone who's not very creative, they can use those and they'll get decent outputs, but not great. But someone who's really creative, like one of our guys, he makes all of our thumbnails for YouTube, and he actually just sketches out some of the things that he wants and then throws it to
I've seen people
ChatGPT.
do this. It's so
Yeah,
cool.
and then it makes it. And I
It'll
was
like
like,
bring it
and
to
s
life.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so like before it would take him like an hour, however long, to make these like really high end, like good looking thumbnails. Now it takes him like 10 minutes. And I was like, see, I can't create a thumbnail by that because I can't sketch for shit, right? I'm not a creative, so I can't do that. But someone who is a creative, he was scared he's gonna lose his job. And I was like, no, no, no. What you need to figure out is how to use AI to become a superhuman, right? That's what I said to everyone.
Yeah.
It's like AI can replace and will replace people, but it won't replace those who actually use it. You'll actually just become even
Exactly.
better, right? And so that was a big learning curve for I think a lot of them. And I think a lot of people still are a bit afraid to do that. Especially we have like a really good writer, and he was like, "No, I don't need it. I'm a great writer." And he is an amazing writer. He probably doesn't need it, but I'm like, just figure out how you can get more efficient with it, right? Like that's the thing. It doesn't need to. One of the things I think is content creators are still really important. I don't think AI is going to take that away as much as like there's a lot of AIs that are like tweeting and stuff. And at first those were exciting. Everyone was following them. There's a bunch of them that have like hundreds of thousands of followers. And then you kind of listen to it and you're like, it's actually not that
It's kind of
interesting. Yeah,
soulless.
it's soulless. It's not
Yeah.
that great. Like it was cool for like a week. And I was like, you know what? I'm actually very bearish on these things. And I think it's personality is what's going to make good content creators move forward. Like obviously you still need to be valuable and like give good information and whatever, but it's like it's that fun, that connection to the human is what's going to separate you from all the AI content out there. So I think there's still a big role for content creators. You just got to like find your personality and make sure it connects with other
Yeah.
humans because there's no way AI will replace that. But then, as you said, use AI to do all the things around you, create the designs, and help
Yeah.
you make the titles better, et cetera, et cetera. If you can do that, you become a superhuman, in my opinion.
Yeah, like AI should be able to like help you 10x your output, whether the 10x is like the quality of your output, the quantity of the output, um, or just like, if previously you were spending 6 hours a day trying to like summarize, podcasts or blogs, or even just summarize what's going on in the crypto industry. Now you can use AI to kind of like summarize all that stuff in 7 minutes, and then now you're like up to speed with what's going on. Yeah, even like Caleb, my podcast producer, we were talking recently, and he's like, yeah, I was kind of like going back and forth on using AI, but then on like editing the podcast.
Yeah,
He's like, then I just like gave into it and I started using it, and then now I have like more free time
one hundred
to think
percent.
about like thumbnails or like the titles, and now I'm using ChatGPT, and him and I just go back and forth, and we're like, dude, the person that uses AI is going to be much more valuable, powerful, and productive than the person that's kind of like bearish or like anti AI when it comes to content creation. So
one hundred
it's cool to
percent.
see like you, I guess, a real business, um, using it in the daily workflows
I was
versus just somebody in their corner.
I was playing squash a couple weeks ago with a buddy, and he runs a company, but it's like in the old world, like it's like a physical company, and
Yeah,
like
the old
it
world.
yeah, and so like AI is still very new to him, and he was like, I was putting on a job posting or whatever, and someone applied, and he doesn't get a lot of applications because again he's stuck to his like physical world business, and he's like, I read it, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that this is AI, and he got pissed, and he's like, never gonna interview that guy, he's out, and I was like, that's probably the guy you want to interview, actually. I was like, he's the one that's going to
Thanks, very
10x what, you're expecting this person to do these things. If he's using AI, he can do those plus like so much more. I'm like, you should actually give that
yeah.
guy a chance. Now, there are a lot of people that just use AI and then don't like proofread it. That I do not
Mhm.
like, right? If you're going to like create some report or some tweet or whatever and it looks and feels like AI, that's a problem. You always have to humanize whatever the AI is doing for you. So you still need to be the final like reviewer and editor of it basically, but like AI can get you a long way a lot faster, but yeah, it was just funny.
Yeah, if like AI can, if you're using AI to help you like on your resume or like, submit a case study or something like that, you have to be able to follow through on it too,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah,
as a business
100%.
owner, as somebody interviewing, like you should be able to like just qualify like, okay, be spending ten minutes on a phone call with this person. Do they actually know what they're talking about?
Yeah,
Or was it just like all fluff from AI
100%.
that they download on ChatGPT? So, and sorry about all the questions on Milk Row. I'm just like fascinated with the business model and like how it's grown so much over the past couple years. But can we do like a revenue breakdown percentage? So sponsors, paid, like paid membership and everything else that you have going on, just like by buckets. You don't have to break down the numbers.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So when we acquired it, it was 100% to sponsorships, and that was it. And then we came in, we launched our pro membership, which now is about 3/4 of the revenues we make of sponsorships. So the goal was always let's get
Oh,
that to like 50-50 so that they're even, they're
hmm,
making the same, and then grow both of those. We're almost there, a year past here. So they're close to now being the same. And then we also launched a bunch of other things, but one was like affiliates, which just makes sense in a media company. Our sort of idea here was like let's find products that we use and that we would actually recommend to our customers or our audience that actually help them with their investing, help them with their research, etc. And then we might as well make a cut if we're going to be promoting those anyway.
yeah.
And so now that brings in kind of a decent amount, let's say maybe 5% of our revenues a month. And then we actually also launched what's called Milk Road Swap, which has been kind of fun. And this is basically we took a DEX called Cow Swap. We built our own front end in front of it with our own branding. Again, Milk Road is known for being more like approachable and being more simple in the investing world. And a lot of, if you ever use a DEX in crypto, it's very confusing and very hard to like understand, especially if you don't have a wallet and stuff. And so we just made this like very simple front end that's like, if you don't have a wallet, click here and it links to a wallet. If you don't know how to bridge, click here and we'll send you to a bridge. Like just all basic stuff. There's nothing all amazing about this. It's just easy to use. And so all of a sudden, a bunch of people started using that. And so now we have a bit of revenue stream from that as well. And then there's like, you make a bit of money from Twitter and from YouTube, et cetera. But that's not a ton or a big part of what we're trying to do anyway.
That's cool. How affected is the business or the smart thing that you're doing is like you have different like business models within the broader business, which I think is the best way possible. But how reliant or affected is the entire business from like crypto prices? In
Oh,
crypto, like notorious for going up and down. Like an announcement comes out, the U.S. Says something and then plummets like 60%. As a media business, I think previously, if you had, I'm just assuming if you had just only 100% sponsors, that'd probably be pretty stressful. But now you're a little bit more diversified. So yeah,
it's
how is it before versus after?
So it is impacted a lot for sure, and so we've worked with a number of different large media companies in crypto since 2020. So we're well aware of this, right? We saw them go from, we took a company from making 15,000 in revenue per month to 400,000 in revenue within a year and a half. It was nuts, and that's
Well,
because they're in crypto media, and crypto had the craziest 2020, 2021, right? And so like we saw it, but then, everything gets slashed by like, 20% or 50% in some cases through the bear market, that like long year we had in 2022. But one of the things that we noticed from that was some of our clients that didn't have as good of a product, and mainly what that was, they didn't have as good of a community. And I'll touch on what that means in a second, because I think a lot of people kind of can't quite figure out what community actually means online. But the ones that didn't focus on community and building like strong connections with their audience, they had like a 50% churn rate over the year of 2022. Whereas the ones that had really good community, they were like kind of mission driven. They had events with their people. Like they were a lot closer to their customers. They only had maybe like a 15% cut from 2022. And so we realized quickly with Milk Road when we acquired it, we know that if we go into a bear market or we struggle with prices, it's going to be bad. And so we focused on community right away. When we launched our pro product, we launched a Discord along with it where people can join in, and we have live calls with them. We're chatting with them daily. Every one of our free products also has a community along with it. So our newsletter has its own Telegram chat. Our podcast has its own Telegram chat. And there's no money made from that. It's just like a way for us to like chat with them. How did you like that episode? Who do you want us to have on the podcast next? How did you like that newsletter? Hey, we're going to be in Toronto for this conference. Anyone want to come? We'll get you guys a discount on a ticket. Like,
So smart.
yeah, it's just kind of relating to them, and that keeps retention. That keeps people around. And so we haven't really been impacted. Again, over the last couple months, some of our clients have been impacted a lot. They're like, holy shit, we lost 50% of our subs in like 3 months, right? Like it was really bad. A lot of people in crypto, especially, they leave the moment things get tough. It's really annoying and frustrating, but
Yeah.
we see it. We obviously went down a little bit over the last few months, but it was not a lot. And our sponsorships has not been impacted at all. Sponsorships though usually lags. So like it took 6 months into the bear market of 2022 for most of these businesses to be impacted by sponsorships. Whereas your like subscriptions, people can cancel right away, and so those you start to see like as prices move. But that's why we love diversifying. It's also why we're kind of expanding to be not just crypto. We're going to be Milk Road Macro, Milk Road AI, and that will hopefully help us kind of diversify further and just be a little bit less volatile. But again, what we notice is those who focus on building community and tight connections with their customers or their audience, they see a lot less churn when times get tough.
Interesting. Yeah, it kind of seems like you're following somewhat of like the morning brew route. Morning brew meets more of like it's just more of like a product driven route. It makes me think of like I did a startup a few years ago.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff you said, like starting Telegram groups for users, basically, to get like product feedback and keep people engaged, is exactly what we did for our app that we were doing. So and I don't think a lot of people think about it this way or do it this way, like.
People always think of launching these groups and stuff as like so much more work. And the way I framed it to our team, because they were all like pushing against me, like, hey, I don't want to launch a Telegram group. Like I'm already busy writing this newsletter every day. Yeah. Or like, we're doing this podcast every day. I can't be also managing a Telegram group. I'm like, launch this thing and watch. All of your listeners will come in and they'll tell you who to get on next. They'll tell you what questions to ask them when you get them on. They'll tell you what they didn't like, so you don't have those people on anymore. Like, and it's just been an engine that's like a flywheel. It's helped them get better and better and better. And it's happened for now each one of our media channels. And so I don't see it as more work. Because you don't have to do a lot in there. You're just there to like have a chat every once in a while and get some questions answered, get some feedback. So it's super valuable. Yeah.
What do you think your unique skill set is? Like, you have two very distinct businesses that work hand in hand with each other. I saw that you used to have a health business as well. You've been kind of like creating online for a while, but now like where you stand today, like what sets you apart? And for somebody who like wants to be in a position where you're in, like owning a business and also operating, like what do you think that they need to work on to get there?
Me personally, or are you talking about our brands? Me personally?
You personally. Those are kind of the two different questions. Yeah.
I think that the best skill I ever learned, and I'm very grateful that it just happened to be what I did coming out of university, even though it was nothing to do with what I took. I took kinesiology in university, by the way, but sales was the best skill that I possibly learned. So when I came out of university, I started working for this company, a startup. They had no customers at all, just an idea. And it was I'm not going to get into it, but basically it was in concussion management. So we were helping teach doctors and physios how to treat concussions, because I did a lot of research on it when I was in school, and I partnered with a doctor. And so I was like, I was obsessed with concussions and I knew I wanted to do something in that. And he's like, look, like, I don't know what you're going to do, but I have this company that I'm starting. I just got a little bit of investment. Why don't you come help me and like go figure out how to sell these to practitioners and to doctors and like get them to take our course. And I was like, all right. So I spent 2 months and got no sales. And I was like, fuck, this sucks. This is really hard. And then all of a sudden it just hit and it clicked. I read a bunch of books on sales and like, boom, I got it. And I filled up one of our courses in wherever it was. And then for the next like 2 years, 3 years, I just was selling nonstop. And then I started to build a team in our sales team. And then I got into marketing because we moved it digitally. So we used to go around and do these courses, but we moved it online. And so I realized, okay, I can keep doing these one-to-one sales, or I can try to sell one-to-many, which is what social media is, right? So that's what
Yeah.
got me into social media. But the reason why I was so good at social media is because I knew how to sell. I knew how to tell a story, right? I knew how to talk to people
Yeah.
to make them take action. And so like whenever I build a sales funnel, or I like want someone to buy a product or do something, it's like if you can speak to people in a way that makes them want to take action, you can get someone to do anything. And that helped with negotiating our
Yeah.
deal with acquiring the company. That helps in when we hire people to get good, deals in terms of like what we pay them, et cetera. It helps with like sales. It helps with marketing. It helps with basically everything we do. So I think learning sales was the best skill. And then the other thing that sales taught me, and the other thing I think is kind of my edge, is just grit. Like I've just been grinding for like 6, 7, 8, 9 years, whatever it's been since I got out of, well, it's been 10 years, I guess, since I got out of school. And I just grinded and just like, I don't know how to do something, and I'll just like go and I'll just not stop trying it until I figure it out. Right. And I've just done that. I feel like there's so many times in my life where I'm like, oh, that was me leveling up. Like I just learned this whole new skill. Right. And I've done that so many times, and I can remember those moments. And it's like those are hard to do. Like learning a new skill is very difficult, and it's just time and effort, right? And like most people quit before that they learn that skill or get good at that skill. And for me, I just like I don't know why, but I have that grit where I just grind until I figure it out. Like I'm not happy until I figure it out. And so I think it's just like consistency, and honestly, learning sales I think is the best thing. Which
Yeah. So for somebody who wants to start like an internet business, you think sales would be like one of the
100%.
yeah, it's
It
just
matters for
it's so
everything.
hard to like yeah, like you can do everything online, build the best web page, use AI to create content, or like outsource everything. But unless you get people to buy the product, then eventually
Well,
your internet business is going to fail no matter what.
the reason why we started this marketing agency was I had my health business where I had a podcast, I had this course, and I had all this stuff, and I had this audience. And I didn't know how to market though. I didn't really know social media that much. I didn't know about building web pages, et cetera. So I hired this marketing guy when I was in Bali, and he was walking me through the process of like setting all this stuff up. And most of it was around copywriting. It was around selling people to get them to go from this web page to the next one, or this tweet to this thing. And he just had some of the tools, like here's the sales funnel tool you use, or here's the website you use. Everything else was basically copywriting, but from instead of one-to-one, one-to-many. And I was like, I'm way better than this guy at selling. He just happens to know the marketing tools. And so got rid of him. It was like, watch this. I set it up. It worked for me. I called up the company that I used to work for that I quit. And I was like, look, I just set up this like webinar sales funnel thing. I can do this for you. And I set it for him, and boom, it worked from the beginning. And it was just like spiraled from there. And so sales is just
Nice.
like, when you know sales, you just feel like you can do basically anything, whether it's running a company, hiring, marketing, whatever. So there's a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I used to buy it for every,
Classic. Yeah.
yeah, it's an amazing book. I've read it so many times, but I used to buy it for everyone that I hired back in the day when I had a sales team. I recommend everyone read that book. It's fantastic.
Uh, any interesting tidbits from your health journey, your health coach journey? I checked out your old Instagram. You have like 9,000 followers on there. You haven't
I
posted in a while, but
I don't even own
yeah,
it
I
anymore.
like I like that you like my thesis on social growing on social is like yes, you can be famous or you can be controversial, and that's one way to grow. Um, but the I think the sustainable way is to be helpful, and like to be helpful on a consistent basis over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And in the different businesses that I've seen that you build, like you're helpful in each aspect, right? The health one, I saw the Instagram page, and it's like different health tips on every single post. And obviously people want to share that, and that's how you grow. On like Milk Row, you're sharing, helpful things in the crypto industry. So yeah, just any tidbits from like going from there to like now,
Yeah.
that other
First,
people can take in terms of building their online presence.
no one go look at that because I haven't used it in 5 years. So I don't even own it anymore. I don't even have the password for it. So like I have no
Oh
idea.
man.
But my thing, as you actually nailed it, it's about being helpful. It's actually about simplifying, right? One of the things that I just feel like and I don't really know why. I think part of it was when I was in school, like in university, I actually would like I would study and do all the notes, and I'd figure out everything for the exam like ahead of time. And then all my friends that were in class, they would usually kind of do it last minute. So then I would go and present to them and teach them what I had learned from like all my notes and stuff that I took. And so it taught me to like take all these like complex subjects and like simplify it for these guys to learn. And I think that's kind of what I've done with my businesses and social media is like a complex subject, health. A lot of people are just so confused, but health is actually super basic, right? It's like just sleep, eat real food, move every day. and drink some water, and like that's it. If you just do that, you nail it. But everyone,
Yep.
like no one can figure that out, and it's like how can you? It's so basic, but it's like they think they got to do all these different things, right? And so it's like take these like complex things. There's all these very smart people on social media that are like PhDs talking about whatever, this diet and that diet or this thing and that. And it's like most of the people have no idea what the heck they're talking about. And if you can just be the gap, like bridge the gap, and make it simple for them, and do it in a way that kind of looks good and like has maybe some nice design or whatever, it's just like simple for people, then you can build really good businesses doing that. Because most people aren't the researcher PhD and can understand that stuff. Most people are more basic level, right? And so same with when I got into investing in crypto. I was like, okay, this is a super complex, hard to understand industry. Both investing is hard, right? Like anyone who trying to understand investing, most people can't do it. Forget about crypto, but it's hard. And then you go into crypto and you're like, okay, I don't know what the heck these people are talking about. They don't make any sense. And so again, when I came in there, that's why we started Web3 Academy, was like, look, we think crypto is going to change the world. We want to help people invest, but most people just don't understand it. It's too complicated. And a lot of the media out there back in 2020, 2021 were very technical, very complex. And like, let's just dumb it down. Let's simplify it. And that's what Milk Road actually did really, really well, even before we were there, was they just simplified things. And so if you realize it, a lot of people online are just like, they're not going all in on something and getting like a research, like PhD type degree on something. They're just surface level. And so if you can help surface
Yep.
level people understand complex things, generally there's a lot of people that will follow you or, subscribe to whatever you're doing.
It's awesome. I agree. If you were in my shoes running this like internet empires, it's kind of like a media business, I guess. Um, how would you how would you build it into like a real business? Right now, I'm not monetizing like via sponsorships. I'm not like really asking for people to subscribe or anything except for like free subscriptions. Um, I make money like by consulting on the back end, which
Yeah.
I think in the short term is a smart way to do it, so that I don't have to be begging for um any like sponsorships I can get just to keep the lights on. So I have the freedom to be able to do whatever I want with the pod and not have sponsors that I don't like.
Yeah.
But I guess in the long term, like how would you grow this into like a real business that's sustainable? Sort of like how you're doing with Milk Road.
So there's two things I would say. The first thing you should do is start a community, and get your listeners in a Discord or Telegram chat or wherever they hang out, and just listen to them. See what they do. The reason we launched Milk Road Swap and Milk Road, I never had once thought about launching a DEX at all. Like never thought we were going to do that. But the number one problem I kept getting from people, we would say, "Hey, we think this is a good investment or whatever," and the thing we'd always get is, "Where do I buy that thing? How do I trade that thing?" And the answer was always Uniswap. Just go to Uniswap, right? Like, Uniswap has everything. And it was like, no one could understand that. And I was like, huh. So the biggest problem that our audience has is they actually just don't know how to do the most basic thing in crypto, which is trading. And so we're like, well, let's launch a very easy to use trading product. And boom, everyone started using it, right? We didn't even do much marketing for it. So the first thing is like make a group and they'll help you build your product, right? You can just ask them, should I launch this? Should I launch that? Like, should I do a course? Should I do a cohorted thing? Should I do a subscription? Should I do whatever? And they'll help you figure it out. Like what problems do you have, and start building solutions for them. Start free for some of them, or start really cheap and then start building up as you go. Like there's people who are Milk Road Pro subscribers, which is let's say $250 a year. That when we first launched Pro for Web3 Academy, this was like 2 something years ago, it was like $80 or something for the year, right? And they still have that same subscription. So like as we add on more value, they get it for the small because they helped us build it basically, right? So I would say start
Yeah.
there. I don't know what product you should do, but start there and they'll help you figure that out. And who knows where that goes? Maybe eventually that community just becomes a paid community. Like now people want to join our community that's paid just because there's other people that are really smart with investing, et cetera, right? And you might have the same thing where you got 300 people in here helping people build these empires online. That's very valuable, right? And so eventually you can put a monetary value on that. So as we start with the community, the next thing I think of, the best business model digitally is a membership subscription. So whatever you create, whether it's a course or a newsletter or I don't know, whatever a group, something, try to get a membership model, because I think it's by far the most valuable thing. Because one, like you only need to ask someone to pay once, and then they'll just continue to pay, right? And X percent, like 80% of people just are never going to cancel, right? So it's an amazing model. Whereas like sponsorships, we have to sell them this month, and then we got to go back and be like, hey, you want to do it again? And they've got to repay again. And that moment of payment is a lot of friction for businesses or for people. It's hard to get people to keep paying. Whereas if you can get their credit card and they just throw it in, then you don't have to ask them again. They're just good, right? Now you just got
Yeah.
to all you got to worry about is keep giving value. You don't have to
Keep
actually
them
sell
happy.
anyone again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my advice for anyone who's ever starting a business is like find a way to do a subscription, whatever that thing is, because it's just the best way to just keep building and building that value over time. And they also become very profitable because every new customer you add is no additional work for you, right? So whether you have 100 customers, 1,000 customers, or 10,000 customers, other than like a few more support issues, there's really no additional work. And so like, to me, that's the greatest model you can possibly get. And that's only possible on the internet, right? So I always say
Yeah.
for like digital companies is like figure out a way to make a membership.
Yeah. It's like the Jack Butcher quote comes to mind, like build once, sell twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of the direction that I eventually wanted to go. But I think in the short term, I just wanted to be able to like show people like this is this is a valuable podcast. This is a valuable, like I just hired a research assistant to help out with the newsletter. So basically what he's doing is summarizing, using AI to help out too, but like summarizing all the key points for each. You're gonna get one for this too.
Nice.
Like for each guest, who they are, the case study, their background, doing extra research on like where they come from, what they built, how they launched, and then actionable takeaways for somebody who wants to like do a similar business, or just to give ideas like on, hey, if I wanted to like start a newsletter, like what are different routes that I can do based on Kyle's interview, you know. So I just kind of wanted to like show people that this is valuable, and then eventually figure out how to monetize.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I don't really need, I'm not strapped for cash right now versus like a other business which would jump in and needs to like monetize from day one.
Right.
Sometimes that's smarter, I guess, but whatever. It's okay.
Yeah. I think if you can take your time, right? And make sure you get it right.
Yeah. What does an average day look like for you today? I know you've traveled a ton. It seems like you've managed your stress pretty well. Yeah, what do you work on today, and like how does your day look like?
Yeah, good question. So my days are very like all over the place actually. They used to be very structured. That was one thing I really liked, but that was when I was actually creating a lot of content myself. Now, because I'm kind of across two businesses, plus like still trying to build like my personal brand in the background, um, it's very all over the place, but it's all just meetings. But mainly what I do, I actually wrote this down the other day. I want to see if I can find it in my journal here because I actually was like, hey, I need to figure out how to structure my day better because right now it's all very confusing. I don't know where it is, but anyway, a lot of my time is spent working with like the leaders in my company. So
Yeah.
those that I think can make the biggest impact for the company, I spend the most amount of my time with them. And so I have like weekly meetings with all the leaders throughout both companies where I just like, there's actually no structure to the meeting. It's kind of like, what's going on this week? What problems are you having? And I just kind of help them think through those problems and kind of give them advice on like maybe what I would do if I was in their position. And I think that's very valuable to them and to myself. One, I get to like understand what's going on in the company without actually being involved in either of the companies on the day to day. And then also it helps them figure out how to solve those problems. So I spend a lot of time there. And then right now I'm spending a lot of time trying to grow. One, trying to find more talent so that we can grow. So again, we just found someone for Milk Road Macro. We're going to be looking for Milk Road AI. And so it's like finding these like content creators that I think can be valuable and really good at what they do, bringing them in. And the last thing is growth. So I'm going on podcasts like this just to get more people hearing about Impact 3, hearing about Milk Road. I got another podcast
Nice.
later today, going to a conference for the rest of the week and speaking there at Consensus in Toronto. So a lot of it is like
Awesome.
more outreach, I guess, and trying to get our name out there. Which, by the way,
What's like the
I was just
go
going to
ahead.
say one thing that we've noticed both myself and from our agency side is I think founder-led media or founder-led growth is a really, really important thing. So people call it founder mode, whatever, but like founders
Yeah.
actually creating content, I think is such an underused like tool for marketing because sure, brands are great and some people like brands, but people like people, as we talked about earlier in the show. And so like if a founder can be out there just like telling the story of the products they're launching and like why they launched it and like what went wrong, what went good. People love that shit. And so like if you can keep doing that, then you're going to get a lot more followers that maybe wouldn't follow your brand Twitter or your brand
Mm.
Instagram, right? And so we actually
Yep.
find that a lot of our clients that we run their social media, for example, we also run their founder's social media, right? Because we think they can grow faster and they actually have better conversion rates than the brand themselves. So I think
Yeah.
that's something I had been off the content creation world for a while trying to run these companies. And now I'm like, okay, I want to double down on my own brand because I think that's the best way for me to actually grow our other brands. So
I
that's
think
kind of
so
a big
too.
focus of mine moving forward and advice I've been giving to a lot of people lately.
Yeah, that's advice that I talk to is like a ton, like dozens of the startups, and a lot of founders usually say like, do I really need to have like an online presence? Can I just like have my CMO like, do the brand account or have them post on their account? And like 10 out of 10 times I always say like,
Absolutely, you
yes,
need
you
it.
need to be posting on your own account, not just posting, like being active, like having a thoughtful strategy and like the type of content that you're doing. Sometimes it goes over their head, sometimes they get stressed out because they usually say like, well, I don't have the time to do it. I don't have the energy to do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't have the skill set to do it. So I tell them like, if you don't know how to do it, get somebody to help you. But ultimately, like it needs to be coming from your account. And eventually, you should like build the skill set because it's something that you're gonna need for the rest of your founder career because you're gonna start other companies down the line. Unless this one is the one that hits and you keep doing it forever. But it's very popular now. The biggest founders in the world are posting on their personal accounts, and it's because
100%.
people want to hear from people, not just like paste this brand.
And so it's good for growth, but it's also good for like again keeping me involved in the company and knowing what's going on because a lot of our customers they also follow me, not just the Milk Road account. And so like when they have a complaint or they have feedback that's really good or they really like something or didn't like something, they're often commenting it on my posts. And so like I'm sitting here trying to grow my own brand and at the same time I'm learning about my own brand as a result of it. And so I think it's actually
It's great.
it's very useful as well. And so yeah, I think it's important to do that.
Nice. This last question for you is you've traveled a ton, you've done a couple businesses, different businesses. Now it seems like you have a lot of momentum with both of the businesses you're running, but like what are you working towards? Is there like an exit that you eventually want to get to, or you want to like keep traveling the world, or any broader life or business goals that you're kind of working towards?
Um, Yeah, I mean, like, so what's driven me for a long time is this kind of like financial freedom, and not even just financial freedom, just freedom in general, which is like time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. So basically, like, have enough money where you don't ever have to think about making money anymore. I'll still do it. Like I've said for a long time, I'm probably never going to retire because it's just like who I am. But where you never actually have to worry about it, and you can like provide for your family, etc. Like I want that location independence, which is like if I wanted to, I could go live in Costa Rica or I can go wherever. I just recently bought a house in Canada, which is where I'm from. And so now
Nice.
it's like, okay,
Congrats.
thank you, thank you. So that's been nice. And now it's like, okay, now I need one somewhere where it's warm for all year because
Yeah.
I just spent my first winter in Canada in a while and it was terrible. So it's like, I'd like to have another place somewhere else. And so again, that means I gotta work harder to get there. And then I want to build a family too. And so like those kind of things are all sort of what drives me to keep building these businesses so that I can live the
Yep.
life of I want to get up every morning and I want to surf, right? I want to be with family. I want to do these kind of things. And I notice it's like it's hard to do that if you don't have a good job or you don't have a lot of money. And so it's like I don't need to have billions of dollars or any of that kind of stuff. I'm not like I'm wearing an H&M sweater. Like I don't care about the like I don't have like a Rolex or any of those kind of things like a Rolex, etc. Like it doesn't matter to me. I just want to be able to do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. And so that's like what drives me to just like keep working and keep grinding, and kind of keep building a life that gets me to that place.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, thank you for making the time today. I feel like you and I are similar in a lot of different ways in terms of like lifestyle, in terms of how we view the world, in terms of values. So if there's anything like I can do or the community can do to help out, you let me know, and I'm down to support, dude. I really appreciate it.
Amazing. Thanks. Appreciate that. And absolutely same to you. If there's anything I can do to help, happy to do it and love this podcast. So happy to join anytime.
Cheers, dude. Thank you.